presentation will help you understand what type of data is needed for the Family Engagement Learning Institute and how it will be used. During the Institute, your team will look at your school's achievement data and create a plan for partnering with families to improve student outcomes. You'll be looking at the achievement data as well as reviewing your family engagement inventory, which is simply a tool to inventory all of the family engagement activities you are already implementing. The data and the inventory will ensure that we are not starting from the beginning, but celebrating your past success and then planning for improved outcomes. So let's walk through how to prepare your achievement data and how to complete your family engagement inventory. So how will you use your achievement data during the Institute? During our time together, you will use your data to determine where to focus your family engagement efforts, how to set goals for increased outcomes, and identify families that you need to better engage. So what data should you bring? When you're thinking about that, consider these questions. What patterns do you see by race, gender, language, background, grade level, for example? Which students have the lowest achievement? And where are there opportunities for increased family engagement? So let's say many of your English language learners are struggling with fluency or reading comprehension. Have you successfully engaged their families in supporting their reading? Or if you're at a high school, perhaps you have students who are not completing their A through G requirements or for college admissions. Are the families aware of these requirements? And so you're looking for data that will help you really drill down to what are we seeing and how can we engage families around that. We strongly recommend that you spend your time at the Institute focusing on an academic goal. It's important that your school is really aligning your family engagement efforts with learning goals. So we'll spend a lot of time during the Institute discussing how do we align our family engagement efforts in ways that lead to successful academic outcomes. Once you have identified ways to engage families in the academic areas, you can also look at other data. So if your academic data indicates that your first graders are struggling with high frequency words, you can then look at if there's a correlation between those struggling students and their attendance. You then can communicate to their families about the impact of attendance on a child's academic achievement. Your school may also want to look at strategies for engaging families in student behavior. Once your team has developed a strong family engagement plan around an academic area, you can then do the same thing around your PBIS data or suspension data. So where do you find this data? The data is often already in your school improvement plan, your LCAP, or your benchmark assessments. You do not need to create a separate achievement goal for family engagement. In fact, it is more impactful if you are focusing your family engagement efforts around existing school and district goals. This way, your family engagement work doesn't feel separate from your school priorities. It actually supports your school priorities. So what should the data look like? During the Institute, you're going to be setting a goal based on your achievement data. Each of your stakeholders will be looking at the data. And so you want to bring data that families, community members, after school staff, for example, will be able to easily understand. It should be clear and easy to read. So here's an example of data that is clear and easy to read. Here is another example. And notice how the colored graphs are so helpful. Here are some ways to break down your data so your team is able to set specific, measurable, and realistic goals. You may want to bring data that is broken down by grade level, by gender, by specific content area, by ethnicity or language. Some schools have even broken their data down by geographic area as well. So they know anecdotally that students that live in housing are struggling more in reading, and the data help them to determine better ways to engage families that live in public housing sites. Bring the data that you know will help your team engage families that you have not yet successfully engaged in their child's learning. Here's an example of the plan that you're going to complete at the Institute. So in this case, a school chose literacy as their academic focus area. They identified their challenge as 50%, 52% of their students are reading below grade level. In the center, you're going to list evidence, and this is where you will document the data that you're trying to shift. Notice how they broke down their data by ethnicity. As you know, student level data is confidential, and your team will include people that are not employed by the school district. So do not include any student names in your data for the Institute, and do not include any teacher names. After the Institute, your team will be monitoring your data regularly to measure the impact of your family engagement efforts. So, benchmark data is much more effective than annual data because the results allow you to set really specific goals and you can monitor the results more regularly. Bring enough copies for your entire team and print the copies in color if it helps folks to better understand the data. In addition to your school data, we're asking each team to complete a school family engagement inventory. This is a great way just to list all the things that you're already doing to engage families. FELI is about starting from where you are. We do not encourage schools to add more to their plates by creating new programs or adding a lot of new events. We encourage you to strengthen your existing family engagement practices. You're already holding back to school nights and parent teacher conferences. This is about strengthening those events so families better understand how to support the school's achievement goals at home. We ask that at least the principal and the family engagement staff complete the survey. You'll be sharing this with your team at the Institute. We will download copies of your inventory and provide copies for you during the Institute. The SurveyMonkey link can be found in your email entitled Family Engagement Learning Institute Application Process. Thank you, and we'll see you there.